Hey game designers, in this video we're going to teach you how to actually remove somebody off the list. Now obviously you guys already know how to remove from the list, but to do it with the button takes a little bit more work. So let's go ahead and show you guys the program that we have till now. Okay, so we have a waiting list, Bob, Abby, and Caitlin. We have a function that initializes the waiting list, and then we call the waiting list. So if we hit run, it initializes the waiting list and creates these radio buttons and creates the text. Okay. Then we have a update waiting list that gets called on if we're able to add um, uh, a name. So if we add, let's say Steven here, we click on add, it will add the radio button, which is this function right here. It'll also update the waiting list, which adds Steven to the back. And that happens inside of here when the name is not empty and there's the numbers empty. I'll add to the back of the list. We already covered that if we wanted to add in someone to the middle of the list, we can do that. That's right here. If someone gets added to the middle of the list, let's say we put in 0 or 1. So let's say we have Enrique and we want to put him in the first position or the 0th position. It will add him to the first position. That's this one right here. And lastly, um, what if we want to add them, let's see, let's say we want to add them to the back of the list. So I got Enrique, let's go Francisco, and I want to add them to the back of the list. I'll say like 7 or something, and first will get added to the back. So this is kind of just a review of what our program already has run. Let's go ahead and add the remove feature. So right now, if I click the remove button, it doesn't do anything. If I click on a checkbox, you would expect if I hit the remove button, that should be removed. So let's go ahead and show you the code for that. So obviously we're going to need an on event because this happens when we click a button. If I remember correctly, the name of the button should be remove button. But let's go ahead and see if it pops up. Nope, it doesn't. I'm pretty sure the name of the button is called remove button. And let's go ahead and go over the code. So we want to remove a button if this thing is checked. So we're going to use an if statement, if, right? And do we have a function here that tells us if a box is checked? And the answer is yes. It's right here, get checked. So get checked returns a true value if that particular UI element is checked and returns false if it is not checked. So I'm going to put these in parentheses because an if statement requires a true or false value. This will return a true or false value, except we don't have a button called ID. We have a bunch of radio buttons called RB1, RB2, RB3, RB4, RB5, RB6, and RB0. Okay, so we're going to check if RB1 is clicked. If it's clicked, we're going to remove RB1. So how does that work? You have a command called delete element. So if you go down here, there's a command called delete element. So if RB1 is checked, delete RB1. Okay, so let's go ahead and run the code. So if I click on RB1 and I click remove, if RB1 is checked, it will remove RB1. But this is not RB1, this is RB0. So let's try RB1, which is right here. And you can see that RB1 is now removed. Now, is this what I really want? If I click on this and remove Abby, should I remove RB1? Or should I remove Caitlin, remove Abby, bump up Caitlin, and remove the last button? And the answer is you always remove the last button. So it's not RB1 that I want to remove. It's RB and the number of whatever is on the back of the list. So if I have 3 people on the list, I want to remove RB2. So basically, it's whatever the waiting list length is minus 1. So if I have 3 people on a list, I want to remove RB2, which is that button. Okay, so let's go ahead and reset and run our code. So if I click on Abby or Bob, it doesn't really matter, or Abby because I have RB1 here. If I click remove, it should remove that button and bump up Caitlin. Okay, so we got some things working. We're deleting the correct one. We're deleting the one in the back. Now, if I have 10 buttons, should I write 10 if statements? Yeah, but doesn't that sound repetitive? And the answer is yes. So instead of sitting here and going RB1, RB2, RB0, RB3, RB4, RB5, all the way down, let's just delete the 1 and use a for loop. So let's go look for a for loop under controls. Let's drag in a for loop. So we can check every single radio button. Well, how many radio buttons do we have? We don't have 4 radio buttons. We have whatever the waiting list.length is. So for I equals 0, I less than whatever the length of the waiting list is, I less than the length of the waiting list, add 1 to I, and do this. So I'm just going to copy and paste this in here. But instead of calling it RB nothing, I'm going to call it RB plus I. So basically, what is I? Well, I starts out at 0, then it goes to 1. And if my list is 3, it stops at RB2. Because when I is 3, 3 is not less than 3. It breaks out of the loop. So this will delete no matter what button I push. So let's go ahead and hit reset and hit run. If I want to delete Bob, it will delete the last one. If I delete Abby, it will not delete Abby. Let's go ahead and see what's going on here. Delete element, Abby, get checked RB plus. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to put the wrong one. It's RB plus I inside the parentheses, not outside the parentheses. That's why it's giving me this error code. Let's go ahead and reset, hit run again. Now let's go ahead and remove Bob. Okay. And by the time we get to here, RB2 is removed. So we're good. Actually, this doesn't even make sense because I'm going to remove a button regardless. So I'm just actually going to take this out. Okay. Because I'm always going to delete a button, right? If someone hits any of these buttons and it's checked, actually, I got to take that back. If any of these buttons is checked, if any of these buttons are checked, which could be none, but if any of them are checked, I'm going to remove the button. Okay. All right. What else do I have to do? Well, I also have to update the list. I got to remove the person that's on the list out and update the list. So we're going to go and remove the list. So how do you remove something from a list? It's inside of data, or I'm sorry, variables. On the very bottom, right, we have insert item, append item, and remove item. We're going to use remove item. And we're going to remove from what? The first argument is the list. So our name of our list is going to be called waiting list. And what are we going to remove? We're going to remove whatever button is being checked. And in this case, it's going to be I. Because if RB0 is checked, we're going to remove the 0th item. If we're going to remove RB2, to say this is 2, and get checked returns 2, I'm going to remove 2. And don't worry about this warning. This warning is by the time it gets to RB2, the list has already been deleted. So we don't have to do this. We don't have to worry about this warning. Okay. And let's go ahead and hit run now. So let's say if I remove Bob, it removes the last button. If I remove Abby, it should remove Abby. If I hit Bob, it removes Bob. But here's the problem. Why isn't the name removing? Well, I removed it, but did I ever update the list? And the answer is no. So let's go ahead and update the list so I can visually see it, because right now the list is empty, but we didn't update the waiting list. But now that we do, let's see what happens now. So let's suppose that I don't click any button. I hit remove. It doesn't do anything. Why? Because none of the buttons is checked. But let's say I check this one, hit remove, it removes Abby. And now I have Bob and Caitlin. Now if I click on Bob and hit remove, Bob gets removed. Caitlin goes to number 1. If I want to remove Caitlin, I can remove Caitlin. And I have nobody. If I click remove again, it's going to do nothing because no one's removed. Let's go ahead and say that Steven now enters the line. And now I click on this and remove Steven. Let's say 2 people come to the line, Bruce and Carl. Bruce gets served, remove Bruce. Carl gets served, remove Carl. So this now works. It now checks every person on the waiting list or on the checklist, sees if the checkbox is clicked, and if it is, it will delete the element. Now, here's an interesting question. Even though it's a for loop, how many times is delete element going to happen? Only one time, because only one of these can be checked at any given time. Right? That's what makes these radio buttons special, is that I can't click on 2 at the same time. And this is on purpose, right? So I can only click on one radio button at a time, okay? So even though the if statement will check every single button on the list, it will not delete every button on the list because only one of them can be checked at any given time. And that's it, guys. That's the one extra function you needed to remove people off the list, to add people onto the list, to add people anywhere on the list. And this app is now complete. Okay, this app is now complete. So it's only took me, maybe 10, 15 minutes to make this video, but I'm going to be super nice because I know a lot of you guys are falling behind in your other classes. I'm going to give you 2 days to turn in this assignment. So basically all you have to add is this code right here to the program you already had. So this program, again, is, getting to about 50, 60 lines of code. If you take away all these little braces, it's actually not that long. But you should now just be able to add this last one. If you're following along, it only takes you about 15 minutes. I'm going to give you 2 whole days. Okay? And I will see you guys again on my next video.